I feel like when I watch the Wizards, I told my son this. I was like, when we get home, we got to watch the movie Eddie. I feel like the Wizards are so bad
Yes.
that it shouldn't even be. I shouldn't be real life. Like that should be in a movie. Like guys aren't listening in the huddle. Jordan Poole's like dancing
Yes.
around. Guys are talking amongst themselves. Well, I don't even
Yes.
remember who the head coach is. He's like drawing something up over in the corner. Kyle Kuzma's probably like planning what he's going out to do after the game. Nobody cares. It's a movie, man, how bad they are. It is really bad. It might not show in the record in the standings. This might be the worst team in league history. And I'm not just being a jerk about it. Like, they're really, really bad, man.
I already bet the Heat to win the East at 14-1, so I'm already sitting with that ticket there. They've turned this up at just the right time. Now, Jimmy Butler and what he's doing tonight aside, it's frustrating me, but this team now has put themselves in a position where we're looking at them as barely a play-in team, so they're competing with Orlando, not just the division. We're talking 4 seed in the East. You've got teams like the Knicks who are hurt, teams like the Cavs who are hurt. The Knicks, it feels like it may be more like a little more long-term, maybe carrying over into the playoffs there. But the East is wide open, and the East has a bunch of teams that either don't have experience or they just don't have the mental fortitude for you to trust when it comes to the playoffs, even the Boston Celtics. I said last night, right? Great regular season team to bet on. Keep doing it. When you get to the playoffs, that's going to be a different story. I like the teams that have the experience, the teams that we know turn it up when it gets to playoff time, and the teams that have things going on up here that are focused and they're ready to go. The mental side of it. Miami is 100% in on the mental side of this. They're also a better team than where they were last year. And if Tyler Hero is also healthy, he wasn't healthy for most of the playoffs. You've added Jaime Jaquez, who has just come out of nowhere and been the perfect Heat player, and Terry Rozier. You got another scorer. You've added the offense that you need because they have struggled a little bit offensively here now, but they're starting to still incorporate Terry Rozier. It's taken a little bit of time. You add that with that elite championship level defense that Miami has right now. Absolutely. Take Miami and Denver 50-1 as the exact result for the NBA Finals. You do it, I'll tail you on it. I'll do the same damn thing. It felt like Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Cardinals from the outside is a done deal. But it didn't come across here at all with what you said in terms of any sort of, like, there's no consensus that that's actually the case, is there?
Oh, no, not at all. So usually in team building, the standard thinking is that a wide receiver is not one of your initial building blocks, right? It's more of the cherry on top of the sundae. It's not what you get first to build around. So, they've been clear in their build with Monty Austinford as the GM that they've been accumulating picks and they've got to build the lines on both sides of the ball. You'd think they might start there rather than just go for a receiver at 4. I think they're a prime candidate to trade out of that spot. There could be interest to come in. They could still get, the second receiver or the second or third offensive lineman or whatever they wanted to do, a pass rusher, right? The second pass rusher. There may only be a couple defensive players in the whole top 10. So I think they would be really well served to consider moving back. As good as Marvin Harrison Jr. is, you could still kind of have it both ways, continue to build. Maybe you pick up a high pick next year and just keep insulating yourself while building, because they may have a Kyler Murray decision to make in a year or two, right? They're not making it now, but they could if he were to get hurt again or have a bad season or whatever. So with JJ McCarthy, he wasn't somebody on everybody's radar early in the year because it wasn't a given or even likely seeming that he was going to come out. So people are later to evaluate him than they are the other guys, especially coaches. That's really when we talk about moving on a draft board, there's a process that obviously starts, during the college season or before. But when players move or are perceived to move, there's just more people getting involved in the evaluation process in each team's building. So like my colleague at The Athletic, Randy Mueller, who's a 3-time former GM, tipped me off even during the season. Like, McCarthy's going to totally rise. Watch. He could be a top 5 guy. And people were laughing at that, during the college season. But he knew how it works in these buildings. Like we said, the coaches are going to evaluate him. And there's a lot to like. Now, there's a lot to project, too, because of the style of offense. It's just not as obvious with him as it is with others. But that's what the evaluators get paid to do. And that's why he's going to climb up as more people evaluate him.
Who do you think is his natural fit in terms of teams? I've heard a couple people mention the Giants. If he could sneak up into the top three, maybe it's a team like the Patriots, depending on what Washington does. Like for you, when you're talking to teams, like who's the most enamored with him? Like just kind of generally speaking.
Well, I don't think he's going to go to the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. That would be the obvious fit, but they're pretty happy with the quarterback that they have there. I think the rest is fairly speculation. I would be looking more at like where could you be successful at, right? I think if you go into New England, it's going to be a little bit of a tough slog early on. That's why I think maybe they're a candidate to sign, maybe a veteran and have it both ways, right? Have a veteran and be able to draft a quarterback. That's a possibility for them. I'd watch for a name like Russell Wilson there. Potentially, the Raiders are another one not quite drafting as high, but I don't know that there's just a supernatural fit for JJ McCarthy over other places, but Denver maybe comes to mind just because they need one. They're not going to be able to get probably one of the top two or even three. Do they make a move up? I think Arizona at 4 is a nice slot to maybe get into to be able to get the third or fourth quarterback.
On the north side, which means 80-plus games at Wrigley, Hitters Ballpark, especially when the wind's blowing out, we all know. 23.5 homers, minus 115. I went pretty big on the over. What do you think about Bellinger this season?
I think it's a strong possibility, and I think it's a strong possibility because of the way that the contract got structured. This is the definition of a betting on myself contract, right? Like this is a 3-year deal with a player option at the end of every year, which means that at the end of this year, Bellinger if he goes and he hits the over and he returns to being Cody Bellinger, then he gets to opt out of Chicago and somebody's going to pay him big money. So Cody Bellinger has like tens of millions of dollars of reasons to hit all the props. So the question is, do you believe that Cody Bellinger can get back to the form? And the answer is, I don't see why he couldn't. Now, Bellinger's going to be arguably the biggest threat in that lineup. Bellinger's going to be the guy that gets a lot of guys pitching around him in a lot of spots because you lose Jameer Candelario, who was the biggest free agent pickup of the year last year. He kind of buffered up next to Bellinger, and that kind of stocked the lineup to where there were no freebies in there. So I do get worried if the Cubs are playing a lot of one-run baseball games that Bellinger's a guy that's going to be pitched around a little bit more than average. But again, he took the bet on yourself contract, and with a guy that has the raw talent that Cody Bellinger has, I honestly don't have a problem with just about any prop hitting the over for Cody Bellinger because, again, I don't know about y'all, but if somebody's going to give me 80 million reasons to figure something out, damn it, I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, and I mean, I was looking at it like you see right there, 24.5 at BetMGM, minus 120, 23.5, minus 115, had to take it. All right, I got one more home run prop I want to ask you about and then a couple strikeouts, but let's be quick here so we don't steal Trista's thunder. What do you think about Corey Seager over 29.5 homers, minus 115 to the over? I hammered it.
I'm not mad about it. I like the Bellinger prop more. I think with Seager, and I think a lot of people are over it. Listen, the Rangers won the World Series. It's a good baseball team. They also had a lot of guys that took off. I don't think the Rangers are the same baseball team offensively last year. And I think there's a lot of inflation for Rangers props because people are expecting them to do what they did last year and kind of be in the back pocket of Atlanta and LA as teams that are scoring a billion runs. I don't think you're going to see the same numbers out of the Rangers this year, and I think that kind of trickles down to some of the players as well. Corey Seager is still an all-star, still a great player. 29, did you say 29? Because that feels a little high. I'd feel better somewhere at like 24.5, 25.5. But again, it just depends on what the lineup around him does, and I don't think that they're going to be the same offensive mega power that they were last year.